Coffee with Christy and crew. So for those of you who I don't know, I think I know most of you guys or you know our coaches, but thank you guys for being with us. I'm Christy Belt-Grossman. I'm the owner and founder of Ops Boss Coaching, and we are here with hopefully mostly ops bosses. I think we have a few agents who messaged me and said, can I join? And I said, absolutely. And this will be from the ops point of view. So I think a lot of what we're going to talk about is universal. So I wanted to first say, this is not a class. This is a mastermind. So feel free to jump into the chat. If you want to come on camera, that's fine too. Hannah, for some reason, I've got speaker showing and it's showing you. I don't know why that's doing that, but let me go back so I can see all you guys. So there we go. So feel free to participate in the chat. Where did Coffee with Christy come from? Here's where it came from. We have a group of awesome coaches, and I learn so much from them, and we mastermind all the time about everything, whether it's business, life, spirituality, health, all the things. And we thought, well, gosh, we should just mastermind with the whole community and invite you in to just listen to us mastermind and then join in with us, because together everyone achieves more, right? There's a lot of wisdom in the room. We don't have all the answers. This topic is a really, really tough topic, right? We're all dealing with a lot of overwhelm. So I wanted to say that. So this is a mastermind, not a class. Today, we're going to give you the ABCs. I always like to make everything simple and make it into a system. So our ABCs today are going to be: A is for acknowledge, B is for brainstorm, and C is for choose and commit. So we don't have all the answers today, but what we're going to do is talk about what the problem is. We're going to brainstorm all the different ways that we can deal with overwhelm. And then I'm going to ask you guys to finish the call with choosing one thing that you want to try, committing to doing that, and posting that in our Facebook group so you have accountability around it, because it's just taking those little baby steps that are going to get us out of the overwhelm. Before we do that, while people are still joining, just wanted to make sure you guys had information, because I'm getting a bunch of questions about this. We just scheduled out a little bit of our fall. So we have Systems Are Sexy with Stephanie Brackett on September 16th and 17th. I think that's correct, virtually. We have 10 Secrets of a Mega EA virtually September 22nd and 23rd. We have Be a Boss in person in the Atlanta area, October 26th. We have Be a Boss in person in Virginia Beach, November 3rd. And if you're in a market center and you want us to come next year, whether that's in person or virtual, message me afterwards. Sheila, maybe you can put my email in the chat for that as well. We're also in the midst of working on September, October coaching schedules. So if that's something on your calendar to be coming up, schedule a call with me. I'm happy to answer questions. And then also, if you're new, make sure that you're checking our blog and our YouTube channel. There's a lot of awesome information in the blog and on the YouTube channel that's free. And so let's dive into today's topic, which is how to press the reset button when you're overwhelmed. So I said A is for acknowledge. So I want us to acknowledge the overwhelm. What is the overwhelm that we're dealing with? And so maybe you guys can go ahead and type in the chat, why are you here? If you're here, I'm assuming that you're feeling overwhelmed. What is the source of the overwhelm? Go ahead and start typing in the chat. And then if anybody wants to come on to video and share, I would love that too. I will tell you that most of you know my background, that I led a top team for 23 years. I probably lived in overwhelm for 18 to 20 of the 23 years. And I want you guys to not make the same mistake that I did. So let's talk about what some of those things are. Coaches, do you want to chime in and maybe share some of the things that your clients have shared with you about what the overwhelm is?
Yeah, I can start us off. So for me personally, one of the things I've really been struggling with is I think business is just as hard, if not harder this year. In our area, it's still a really hard market. Our agents are working harder to get something under contract. And yet all of the things that were shut down last year from a personal standpoint are back and active, right? So that creates a lot of time demands. And I think I've gotten really bad at saying no to things. Now it's like I've committed. I'm like, darn, I don't have enough time for this. There's no hours in the day.
Yeah, I love that. I'm seeing that too. And it's like all the things we couldn't do last year opened back up. And so it's almost like even if we don't want to do them all, we feel like we should do them all because we missed them all last year. Yeah. What other overwhelms? I'm seeing a ton of things coming through the chat. This is awesome.
I think the thing that I've seen a lot in a lot of clients and just personally is the lines between work and personal and everything else have just gotten really blurred. There are no really distinct lines between, okay, I'm working now and now's my personal time. It just got all blurred, especially those people who are trying to work from home. And I mean, there's just not enough hours in the day. You cannot, time wins every time. Like you can't compete with time. It just keeps going. It wins every time. And so it's really hard to manage those blurred lines that have come from the world we're living in.
Yeah, and I think that's compounded by the fact that last year, most of our teams, most of you guys probably had the best year ever, and business just keeps ramping up. Life keeps ramping up, and there's nothing that has really slowed down, right? What else? Anybody else have other ones, other acknowledgements, things they want to acknowledge? Let me just look through the chat here. So I've had a lot more things added to my list of responsibilities. I think that's a really common one, Lindsay. Let's see, remote working. Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of you are still, how many of you, type in the chat a yes or a no. How many of you guys have school age children? I'm just curious. And I'm guessing, yeah, a lot, right? And so some of us are coming out of COVID and they're finally going back to school, and some of us were in school and now they're back at home again, and some of them never left home and they've been homeschooling this whole time. So that's a lot. And one of the issues I've seen with that is rainmaker patience to a certain point, and the patience then expires because they still need the work to get done, which is understandable, right? Okay, anything else that we want to acknowledge? I think hiring maybe is a challenge. Do some of you maybe have extra work on your plate because you haven't been able to find talent and hire talent for your team? So all of a sudden the job that was already overwhelming, now you have 2 jobs, and some of you have 3 jobs. Anything else I missed for overwhelm, coaches, or anybody? Feel free to unmute anybody on the call.
Just when you're talking about like the acknowledging, like we have to acknowledge that we're actually feeling emotions around all of these different things. There are emotions that are real. We can't just say, hey, snap out of it, like get over it, you're fine. There are actual real emotions. There's fear, there's stress, there's anxiety, there's like all these different emotions, and it's okay to feel those emotions. Like a lot of people are just like, oh, get over it, it's fine. No, it's okay. You have to acknowledge that you have emotions around whatever's happening, and that's okay.
Yeah, I love that. I know there are some people that are afraid to ask for help, for example. They're afraid to acknowledge that they can't get the work done. They're afraid they might lose their job. There's a lot of, I think fear is probably the #1 emotion that I'm seeing around this. So I want you guys to think about, when you're thinking about acknowledging, the word that also comes to mind for me is notice. So notice the things, notice the emotions, notice what may trigger the emotions, and then we're going to choose the action. Because like Steph said, the emotion is the emotion. Your thoughts are your thoughts. You can't choose your first thought, but you can choose your second thought, right? So I feel the fear. I know, like, I got another project on my plate. I know it's too much. I feel the fear. Okay, I notice it. Now choose my second thought, choose my action. And that's what we're going to talk about a little bit about brainstorming. So if you want just a couple of quick ideas on noticing, for me, journaling has been really important. I don't journal pages and pages. How many of you journal pages and pages and have like books of journals? I'm betting that there are some of you. Yeah, Elizabeth on the call. I am not great at that. So one of the things we're going to do is share ideas here because we have all different behavioral profiles and we're all wired differently. So for me, what journaling looked like when I was in a really bad period of overwhelm was 1 sentence a day about what was most top of mind for me. It might have been a gratitude. It might have been a, oh, holy, I don't know how I'm going to get through this day. I'm worried about X. It was just 1 sentence. And then to go back over time and look at those so that you can discover the root issue. Another tool for me is logging my energy. So I'm a big believer in logging your energy. Keep track during your week of when your energy is high and what am I doing at that time, and when is my energy low and what was happening at that time. So those are just like a couple of noticing tools. Anybody else want to add anything else on acknowledge, notice? Okay, so let's go into B. B is brainstorm. Okay, so we acknowledged we have a challenge. We're overwhelmed. We've noticed all the things. Now let's brainstorm some tools. And some of these might be practical, tangible tools, and some of them might be just mindset tools. I always say, like, we have to have our ninja mindset tricks, right, to work with our mindset. So where do we want to start? Coaches, do one of you guys want to share a couple of things? Hannah, maybe you want to start out.
Sure. So when COVID started and I've continued this habit, I started, and I just talked about this on a coaching call today, actually, we were going over this topic, started just walking right in the middle of the day, which is like not from a health perspective necessarily, but it was like, hey, I need to get centered. I need some me time. I need some peace. So I think that was just really big. Sometimes, like being at home with my kids, they'd be like, I want to come along with you. And I'm like, no, this is mommy time. And I walk fast enough that I'd be too out of breath to do any work calls. But I felt like I would come back in the afternoons, like ready to go at it, just by taking that little moment. Otherwise, I wasn't taking lunch breaks, and I still don't, which is not really healthy. But I think that walking and just getting away for a moment to clear my mind was really helpful.
Yeah, I love that. Actually, I want to share, if I can find it. Jessica, one of our other coaches who's not here today, shared a tactic that was similar to that. Hold on. So she adds to her walk with a conversation with herself. I thought this was really good. So she walks around her building. Oh, actually, she gave us 2 things. She walks around her building 7 times. And she prays during that time. You could pray, meditate, think, whatever it is. But the point is, she said, if I only walk around it 2 or 3 times, I haven't pattern interrupted. I walk right back into work and all I'm thinking about is work. So she said, even if you're not a prayer person, you could say affirmations or gratitudes. I chose 7 because it's one of my favorite numbers. And if it worked for Joshua and Jericho, maybe it will help tear down my walls too. It's long enough that it puts you in a different mindset. If I only did it 3 or 4 times, I would still be in a place where I walked back in the building, my brain would go right back. So I love that, walking outside. And then the second thing she shared, which you could do while you're doing on your walk, is a dialogue with herself. And actually, she writes it down. I forgot about that. So here's the example that she gave us. I do a dialogue with myself. My deep inner self is often more kind than me in my head self, right? We're all in our heads all the time during the day. Like we're carrying all of our weird self-talk in our head. So here's her example. Jessica, I'm having a really hard time today. I just can't focus. Inner self, do you know why? Jessica, no, I'm just tired and stressed. Inner self, have you been taking the time for yourself like you're supposed to? Jessica, well, no, but last week I had XYZ. Inner self, and how is that helping your mental status this week? Jessica, it sucks, but I don't have time. Inner self, are you sure? What about that spot on Thursday afternoon? You really shouldn't have that class on your schedule anyways. Jessica, well, that's a good point. So I thought that was just like a really good tactic that was really tangible to switch your self-talk so that you can actually get into action. What other specifics do we want to share? Brainstorming ideas to get out of overwhelm. Who wants to jump in?
So if I could just, oh, go ahead, Steph.
No, you go ahead.
I was just going to piggyback off of the walking real quick, because it came up this morning in my office as I was talking to our listing manager. We used to be in such a routine coming back from COVID, a half-hour a day, the two of us or whoever else would want to join, of walking outside. We've literally walked in the snow, the rain, and now the heat. We've gotten out of that routine a little bit, and we're complaining this morning. We were venting. I'm like, what is going on? And we came up with, we got out of our routine of 30 minutes a day, getting out of this office, just talking to each other. We would sometimes do meetings that way, talking about kids, whatever it might be, but we're getting back to that. So that walking is so important to clear your head, even with someone in the office. But it made me think of routine as well. So I notice when I am getting out of sorts, I'm getting overwhelmed. I might snap at someone at home, unfortunately, but it's usually my routine is messed up. So maybe my morning routine I got off of, maybe my exercise routine, and it's figuring out what I need to get back to lessen that overwhelmed feeling.
Yeah, I love that routine thought, because what I'm seeing is we used to be in a place where we would just set our routine, like maybe at the beginning of the year and like a mid-year reset. And I feel like our world is changing so quickly right now that we have to reset our routines much more frequently. Like change your schedule, change your routine. Now is a beautiful time. Many of us have kids heading back to school, or people on your team have people heading back to school. So use that opportunity to create new beginnings, right? Remember that you're so excited about back to school and you're going to get all your school supplies and like get your new outfit to wear the first day. And like, now this is my new opportunity that I'm going to meet new friends and all that stuff. Harness that energy of new beginnings to create new routines. I love that, Ellen Marie. Thank you for bringing that up. Steph, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, well, a couple of things. One, I have like my things that I know fill my cup. Like I have to get a pedicure once a month. I have to. Like I don't want my feet rough. I put it on my schedule. When I have a pedicure, I schedule my next pedicure for a month out, and it's non-negotiable. That's my petty time, and I'm going to go get one. I do a massage once a month. So I've had to create these things and put them on my calendar and stick to them, and they're non-negotiables. It goes back to routine, right, Ellen Marie? Like I have a routine of doing this, and if I miss one, I know I'm going to feel it. I know I'm going to feel it. My other thing is more internal. I always ask myself, okay, this thing is happening, right? Something is happening and it's making me feel anxiety, or it's making me feel out of sorts. What do I want to be happening? Because a lot of times if we can verbalize what we actually want to be happening, we can figure out how to get there. If we're just like, well, this is all messed up and it's crazy and this sucks. Okay, well, what are you going to do about it? What do you want to be happening? Well, I want to be able to leave work at 5 o'clock. Okay, what needs to happen in order for you to leave work at 5 o'clock? Well, I've got to get this, and this done. But most times we're just like, I'm too stressed. I have too much to do. I'm never going to get out of here. And that's the
Steph, I want to go down that path with you because you're such a good clarifier. And I know everyone has that same issue of feeling overwhelmed with more things. I want to get out of work. I want to be home and cut off work at 5 o'clock to be with my family. Okay, well, what has to happen? Well, 27 things have to happen, but there's no way I can do 27 things. And then I get stuck in that mentality of, I'm just overwhelmed. I give up. I can't do it. I don't have any leverage. I see all the reasons why not. Take us down. What are the questions? How do you get past that?
Yeah. My first question is, am I committed to someone else on one of these items? Do I have a commitment to someone else? Because a lot of times what happens is you've made the commitment to yourself and you've overcommitted yourself, and no one's waiting on whatever it is you have. So you have to really figure out, do I have a commitment to someone else? And if the answer to that is yes, can that commitment be renegotiated or no? Is it a hard stop? Like I told, is something bad going to happen if I try and renegotiate this commitment? And if the answer is yes, that's one of the things that has to get done. But I guarantee if you looked at your list of 27 items, probably 15 of them are commitments you just keep putting on your list. and you just keep bumping and bumping and bumping. So there is no commitment to someone else. And then the other 13 items, yeah, you have major commitments. Maybe they're not quite due yet, but we do that all the time. We overcommit ourselves, and we're overcommitting ourselves. When we first merged our two teams, my to-do list was like 87 things. And I kept telling Sean, my mega, I just feel like a failure every day. I can't get all 87 things done. And he's like, who made those due dates for you? Like, where did those due dates come from? And they were self-imposed due dates. I did it to myself. And he's like, pull the due dates off. These are the only 3 things I need done. Just these 3. Pull all the due dates off, and then time block an hour and a half and get whatever knocked out that you can get knocked out. The most important things. No one's going to die if this doesn't get done. Then don't do it.
How many of you guys, I'm just curious, how many of you guys, if you relate to that, put a yes in the chat? I'm just curious, because literally that issue is what kept me in overwhelm and in victim mode for probably 18 years till I kicked my own ass. Like, honestly, sorry, real talk here. And I'm not proud to say that. So I'm just curious if other people are in that.
Yeah, that's the question that haunts a lot of people is, when is this going to get done? Like, you're looking at your list of things to do and you're looking at your calendar, and there's literally not enough time to do all of those things, which is why you have to prioritize. And if you're looking at the list, this happens to me all the time. I'm looking at the list and I have no idea what these things are going to get done. I have so many, I have to do all the things, right? If it's on the list, I have to do it. Well, if you can't see what your top priorities are, take it to someone else who can. Does your rainmaker have the answer? Put it on your calendar? Because that answers the question when you keep asking yourself, when are these things going to get done? I don't have time. And you put them on your calendar. Now you know when they're getting done. Oh, I see that's tomorrow at noon. Not a problem.
And when you do that, it takes it out of your head. The overwhelm comes from carrying too much in your head and being afraid the balls will drop, being afraid you're not going to get it done. So those of you who know Anna Kruger, Anna and I coach each other, and one of her tactics is brain dump it all. Brain dump it all. I don't care what you're thinking about, what you're worried about. It's like, oh my God, I got to get toilet paper. Literally, this is my house yesterday. I call my husband. I'm like, oh my God, we have 1 roll of toilet paper in the whole house. Like, we have to get, like, that was top of mind yesterday. Dump all the things onto a piece of paper, old-fashioned way. Every single thing that's on your mind. Then go back and prioritize them. Today, this week, this month, this year, and then put them on your schedule, put them into your CRM or your task management program, whatever that is. And now I can forget about all those other things. When you dump them all out and you see the same ones coming up that are similar, you'll also see ones that you can just get rid of, right? Do, ditch, delegate is one of the other ones.
The other thing too, Christy, about that is when you're leaving things in your head, like they're not captured somewhere else, your brain literally thinks it needs to do all of them right now. Like your brain isn't smart. It's not it's not smart. It doesn't know. It just thinks, well, crap, I've got 27 things to do and I have to do them all right now. And you can't.
That was one of my tactics, was to breathe, because I will literally stop breathing. And that's when I notice that I'm overwhelmed. I'm like, holy crap, take a breath, Elizabeth. So I have to literally breathe. And then I say to myself, I don't have to do everything right now. I just have to do the next thing for that reason.
Yep. And then the last thing I was going to say about the list is when you're making your list, be very specific about exactly what you need to do. What is your very next action to move that thing forward on your list? Don't just be like, out of toilet paper. Well, what do you need to do? Do you need to put it? Do you need to tell, I can't say her name out loud, you know, the Amazon little box that sits on your desk. Do I need to tell her to put it on my shopping list so my husband picks it up? Do I need to order it from Amazon? What exactly do I need to do? What's my very next action? If I need new tires on my car, Do I have to go figure out what size tires they are first? Do I have to research? What's my very next action? You feel so overwhelmed because you haven't clarified exactly what you need to do. It's just like, do this thing. Create an onboarding program.
Right.
Great, I'll just go do that today. It'll be done in 5 minutes. It's fine, right? That's not the next action. What's the very next action? Put that on your list.
So that kind of piques my mind for a couple of conversations that we've had in coaching calls recently, which is around expectations. So that example that Steph just gave is a real example that happens all the time, right? Team owner says, we need an onboarding system. Let's create an onboarding system. Awesome. I literally had a team last week. I had a call with Rainmaker, and he's like, yeah, we're going to move into Brivity. So-and-so, over the next 2 weeks, can you get us all set up in Brivity? And I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Like, you're going to transition your lead tracking, your listing management, your transaction management, your client event, like all these things in the next 2 weeks into Brivity for the whole team, and train the team and get it transferred. That's not going to happen. And he's like, really? It'll take longer than 2 weeks? And I said, yeah, that's going to take probably till the end of the year. That's a 4-month project. And he was like, okay. So how many times does that expectation conversation happen where you don't bridge the gap? You just let it go, right? Rainmaker has an expectation. You're not saying you can't do your job. You're telling them how and when you can do it, right? You know what you're doing and how long it will take much better than someone else who's not involved in your systems. So bridge the expectations gap. One thing that I really love is, I know we don't have all Keller Williams here, but that's okay. We can still share the form in the group, is the career visioning expectations worksheet that you use when you're hiring people. If you're feeling like there's a big gap in expectations with people on your team, pull that worksheet out and go back to square one and say, what are my expectations of you? What are your expectations of me? And those could be around things like, well, my expectations are that after this time, I'm not available, that you're not texting me. Or it could be, I expect that when I give you something, you tell me when it can be done. Like, there's all different kinds of expectations. So if you're having a big rub with people on your team, go back to expectations. I wanted to acknowledge the comments. There was a couple really good comments in the thing. Now I lost them. Kelly said I don't see it now, but I think Kelly said something about, oh yeah, I notice when I'm overwhelmed and I brain dump it, the list doesn't look as overwhelming as I think it is in my head. I've had that exact same experience. And I love Abby's. My agent tends to make every task she gives me sound important. I've been making it a point to ask her, when does this need to be done by? Yeah, because oftentimes we don't ask, and high Ds especially are going to sound like they want everything yesterday. So it's just a clarifying question.
And then, is this more important than this and this and this, right? I need it today. Great. Is that more important than these other 3 things that you asked me to do yesterday that you need to do today? I always ask that. And he's always like, oh, no, wait, no, don't do that one. Don't do that one. Do this one and this one. Great. I'll go do them.
Right. Yeah. One trick that I recommend, if you are in an office physically, I know some of you are still working from home, but those of you who are working with your team in an office, is keep a whiteboard with a project idea list. It's 3 columns, project and ideas. So Rainmaker walks in, I need a new onboarding system. Oh, I talked to so-and-so and they have this great referral program, whatever it is. Just write it onto the board in column 1. Column 2 is what I am actively working on, my big rocks. Never more than 3 things in that column, and always in priority order, 1, 2, 3. 3rd column is things completed. So the only way you can add something to the active column, if you're the team leader or the agent, or even yourself, is either move something back to the idea column or move it into the completed column. And now I can pull something from the idea column. It sounds really like, why would we need to do that? Oh, I can do a spreadsheet with that. Something about having it visually in front of their face when they walk in and they see it, because they forget that they gave you 27 other things yesterday, right? But if they see the 3 rocks and what order is, then you can go back to Steph's question. Do you want me to replace it and take this one off? Where do you want me to put it in order? What else? What other ideas for overwhelm? Hannah, you were going to talk about circle of energy, I think. She's still here. I can't see everybody.
Yep. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I'm here. Yeah. So if you guys have read The One Thing, I was mentioning to Christy, I said my rainmaker always calls it the circle of energy. I don't know if it's in the book or not, but really if you look at it, it starts with like your spiritual and your physical, and then it goes through like your, I think it's your family relationships, and like business and work's last. And one of the things she had pointed out to me is it's so important that we approach the focus on those areas in that order. So if you looked at your experience over the past 12 months and you say, hey, I'm really focused on my spiritual health and my physical health, and then my family and relationship health, and then work health, I bet all of us would be like, no, none of us did that. But I think that's why we feel so drained, right? We forget to invest in ourselves. And I know when I stop and say, okay, I'm going to wake up early, I'm going to do my quiet time, I'm going to, take my walks during the day, I'm going to make sure that I'm plugged in with my kids from work in the evenings. I think there's proven research out there, correct me if I'm wrong, but when we're hyper-focused in a smaller amount of time with a start and a finish, we're more productive versus if we just let it bleed over. So I think we believe that we need to let work bleed into all hours, but it probably does not help us be more productive. And then it makes every other area of our life more stressful and more tiring.
Yeah, I love that. So the book is The One Thing, in case you haven't read it. And that may be on the One Thing website.
Yeah. Just like Google that circle. If you say One Thing circle, it pops up with the graphic if you guys are curious what those areas are.
And just to play off what Hannah says, I think most of you, if you're in the OpsBoss group, you saw the quote I posted a few weeks ago, and it was from the book Winning by Tim Grover. And he talked about that you cannot manage time. It's impossible, but you can manage your focus. And what Hannah was saying, right? You're going to finish something in the time allotted. You're going to say, okay, I have 3 hours to finish this, and it'll take you 3 hours because you're going to allow yourself to get distracted, or you're going to allow other things to creep in. But if you can truly manage your focus, all the other stuff, you can get so much done. I mean, everybody goes into vacation mode, right? What happens the day before you go on vacation? You get so much crap done. I did it 2 weeks ago. We were leaving to go out of town on a Wednesday, and I had a new hire that was starting the Monday that I got back from vacation. And it takes me an hour to get a new hire set up, computer system all set up, all the bookmarks, the software loaded. It takes me an hour. It's always taken me an hour. I've done it 100 times and it's taken me an hour, not 100, but maybe 25 times. I only had 15 minutes, right? I'm like, crap, I have to get on a plane. I have to leave. I have 15 minutes. Guess how long it took me to load the computer? 15 minutes, because I walked into the room, no phone, closed the door, and just like totally 100% focused on getting that computer set up. So if we can manage our focus, all the other stuff that we're doing can wait, like be super hyper focused on what you're working on, and you can get it done like you would not believe. But we, like neuroscience of distractions, right, Christy? We allow ourselves to get distracted. We allow all this other stuff to creep in, and it expands the time it takes us to do everything.
So if you guys missed our neuroscience of distractions, there's a couple of them recorded on the YouTube channel, but the study that she shared with us that really jumped out at me was the difference with three sets of students taking, I don't remember if it was SATs or some kind of one of those SATs or ACTs. One set of students had their phone with them. One set of students had their phone in their backpack, not looking at it during the test. And one set of students dropped their phones outside the door before they walked in to take the test. So it's obvious, the people that have the phone out on their desk obviously had the lowest scores. What was amazing to me is the people that had their phone in their backpack, their scores were not very much higher than the people who had it out on their phone, but the people that had the phone outside the door, their scores skyrocketed compared to the other two. So are there things you need to do with turning off your email, putting your phone? I'm literally have made a practice now when I'm on my coaching calls, when I'm doing things that are part of my 20%, I put my phone in another room because it's just a habit that I have a hard time breaking. How many of you guys, I'm just curious, are not how many, when was the last time you took time off for at least 5 days and were completely disconnected from email and your team? Whitney's honest. I love that. Never, 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 never. 1 year. April. Yeah. Bethany, I want you to come on camera and talk. Who just said May? That's awesome. Mindy, first time in 8 years. Love. 3 years, 3.5 years. Never. 2016. Holy cow, Hannah. We better put that on our coaching call conversation next week. Bethany, will you be willing to come on and share what that experience was like and whether that was a good thing and how it went?
Sure. Yeah, that was my first time totally unplugging as a TC company owner. Once I took over the business, January of 2019. So it was, what is that? 2 years that it took me to take off. And it was challenging for me because just letting go of that control and getting systems in place that I know I needed and, would make it a success to take that time off. So I think I probably spent a year prior getting myself ready for that time off. And then even after taking that week, I came back and had so many new things that came up that I didn't anticipate that we've been able to continue to work on. But basically kind of threw my team in like, all right, guys, here's the things we've been preparing for. Everything's going to be okay.
Did you have anxiety over it? Because you literally, I think, took the apps off your phone that were apps that you would normally be checking all day long. So you guys, Bethany owns a TC company. She does about 1,500 transactions a year, maybe more. It'll be more this year. And she has a team, just like most of you are on real estate teams. So to walk away and disconnect like that, did you have anxiety around it? Did the world fall apart? Like, what were your takeaways from that?
Yeah, so I definitely had anxiety over it. The day before we were leaving, I took the day off, although I wasn't gone on the vacation yet. So I took Monday off, but I was still home, just like getting stuff ready for the trip personally. And the whole day I kept checking my email and checking in with the team chat and like seeing what was happening. And so I said, this isn't going to work because I'm going to do this all week long. I was only going to Florida, so it's not like I was, not able to access the internet or anything. So I think I messaged you, Christy, like the later that day after our coaching call. And I'm like, I've taken off all the apps, the calendar app, the Hangout chat app, my email app, everything. I had to, because otherwise I would have been checking it. Even my personal, like I took off all email, everything. And throughout the week, several times I went to go reinstall because I just had to check in. I was like so anxious to not be able to check and see what was going on. But I think my biggest takeaway was that things did not fall apart. My company was still okay. We didn't lose any clients over it. I didn't lose any team members. Were there people who were stressed and they're like, please never go on vacation again? Just kidding, kind of. Yes. But we were able to take that and use it as a learning experience so that the next time I take time off or, anyone takes extended time off, we're able to have a plan in place and know where there were gaps in our systems. Like we tried to proactively anticipate a lot of that, which we did. And there still were things that came up that, weren't the end of the world, but it was a great learning opportunity for me. And I'm super glad that I did it. So
when's your next one?
Still TBD. Definitely before the end of the year, we'll be taking another week long, probably sometime in October or November.
Love it. So those of you who are on the call, I know a lot of you are in leadership roles, you're directors of operations, your COOs, your sales managers, whatever you are. I want to remind you that your team is looking at you to model what you talk. Are you walking the talk? If you're telling people, come on our team and have work-life balance and create your life by design, are you modeling that? So I would challenge you. I challenged Bethany couldn't schedule her next vacation because she has a husband with special duties. But my practice is never return from a vacation until the next one is planned. And it's the same thing that Stephanie said with the manicure and pedicure, like put it on your calendar. So once it's planned, I pay for it, I'm forced to go. Then I have to actually check out. What other things for overwhelm? If anybody else wants to come off chat and share, or off on camera, feel free to do that and share what your strategies are, because we all have different personalities. So what works for me might not work for you, but what works for, you know, Kara or Misty or whoever might work for someone else.
Well, for me, what I start asking myself is, what is getting in the way? And a lot of times it's just fear. And so, but I'm still overwhelmed. I may know how to do things, but I'll be just pulled in so many directions. And so what I've started doing is stopping and saying, okay, wait a minute. Do you like doing this particular thing? Yes. Then why are you so overwhelmed about this? What's the problem? And that usually kind of helps me to do a little reset where I can quickly write down some steps of like what it's going to take. So I can realize it's not this huge thing. It's this little thing. And then I start looking at the other things in my life that are going on. And I'm like, okay, what else do I need to do that to? Because there's just clearly too much at one time. And just doing that recently, that has really been a big help. Just because there was training that needed to happen and events that needed to be planned. And it was just crazy because these are all things I like to do. It was just when you have to do it all at one time, it's just too much.
So I would, Jane, if it's okay, I think this is okay with you because we know each other really well. So I think if it's not, you'll tell me. You went through cancer last year, 2 years ago. I can't remember now the time frame. I would imagine that when you, and I know we have people on the call who are going through health issues. I know we have people on the call who have lost close family members. They're grieving, like a lot of really serious stuff. I would imagine that when you went through that time, you learned how to go small and get simple and prioritize. What were your takeaways that would maybe help us?
Oh, I love you. So yes, you would think that that would happen. And it sort of did, because I went through cancer the first time in 2019. And then I was diagnosed again with cancer this past January. And so once again, I was right back in the same spot where it was like, oh my God, I have to leave work. I have to not be able to work for several weeks. And how to start working through it. And this time the takeaways became, life is too short to be miserable. So I have to ask myself, do I want to do the things that I'm doing? And if there are things I don't want to do, I'm now letting people know that I'm not doing that anymore. I was leading some groups, and I'm honored to be asked to lead these groups, but I can't do it. And I don't have a passion for it. So I've stopped doing that. And what I'm trying to do more of is, like you said, like planning vacations. Like we haven't planned a whole lot, but we're working on it right now. Whenever I get overwhelmed, that's the other thing this week. I pull out Verbo and then I start looking and I'm like, we're going to plan a vacation. And it actually really does help. Spend half an hour just looking at, vacation condos someplace at the beach. And it can be very therapeutic. So, yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. I just felt like that was really important to say. One of my mantras all my life has been action cures anxiety. I have super high anxiety. And so it's exactly what Jean just said is go down to what's the smallest little step I can take to get out of the anxiety. Because if you're in this huge overwhelm, I was working 70, 80 hours a week, literally for 18 years. That's super not healthy, right? So don't do what I did. But if you're there, if you're in that place, what's one thing that you can do? Just do that one thing and make it really, really simple. What other ideas? Anybody else want to come off and share ideas for what you do when you're overwhelmed?
So just real quick, I want to touch on what you just said. Figuring out that really small thing is sometimes easier for me to do with other people, but for you and I to do that for me, I feel like a little bit more work sometimes, but it can be something. We're talking so much about work, but Christy, we talked about before, like what is bothering me at home? Like what can we leverage out to let go of some of that overwhelm? And we came up with like hiring a cleaning lady once every couple weeks, a company to come out and just help me at home, because I'm here so often than the kids and I'm losing time with them. And it's, what is missing here? So that's little piece of leverage that is just so simple, but you don't really think about it, that we could fit in once a month has helped tremendously. So it's not always like just the me time or, just delegating things at work. It's what else can help you at home that will alleviate some stress even at work, trying to
And
get
what
home.
Phil, I mean, I think back to one of the things when you were really feeling stress over, it's probably about a month ago.
Mhm.
I think this is okay to share. One of the things was we were in a transition point. You have a child, he's getting ready to start kindergarten and he's changing schools, and he was in camps this summer. So his routine changed. And all of a sudden you're feeling so much stress. Well, the one thing turned out to be, I can just take a day off and have Henry Day with Henry. So Henry feels awesome. And I can plan some time with him going forward. It's not that I don't have the time. I just need to plan the time. And that totally filled his bucket. It filled your bucket. And then everything else became easier. So, right, it can be that one thing.
That little bit of guilt that creeps up on you can just build so quickly, but that definitely helps.
Well, I want to address that guilt because we're actually going to talk about that at our retreat this year. We have a really cool, those of you that are coming to the retreat, we have 3 powerful moms who are bringing their 3 kids who are 2nd grade, 3rd grade, and senior in high school. And they're going to be on a panel and talk to us about what it's like to be raised by a powerful mom. And what does that look like around mom guilt? I think the more purposeful we get, the more guilt we can let go of. So if you're purposeful and you're making choices, Tyler, you come to mind right here. Like you just had a baby, 3 weeks ago or something like that, barely. And another, 2-year-old, I think, or 3-year-old, your daughter is so cute. And she was like back to work, like, oh, I had a baby and today I'm back to work. Literally, I don't know if it was that way, but it felt like that.
No, yeah, it was like
I mean, were you like working while you were delivering? Like seriously?
I joke about it, but it really is not funny. I guess when you think about it, it's really unhealthy. But I gave birth at 2:51 in the morning, and at 6 a.m. my nurse came in and I was literally on my laptop, like running commissions. And the nurse is like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "If I don't work, like my team's not getting paid, and then I'm gonna have 50 unhappy agents, and that can't happen." She's like, "You're crazy, put your computer away." But I'm like, I couldn't. It just wasn't an option.
So I want to say, I'm not going to pass judgment one way or the other. We all make the choices that are right for us. Just make sure, are we making choices or are we defaulting in our behavior? Are we being purposeful with what we want to choose to do and then letting go of the guilt around it because I made a really tough choice and this is the right choice for me and my family? Or are we defaulting to others' expectations? So I would challenge you guys to all ask yourself, because I will tell you, I defaulted to others' expectations for a long number of years in my life. And Tyler, I will share with you, my husband used to bring my 2 daughters into the conference room when I was in the mortgage business, and they would come at 9 o'clock at night and have ice cream with me before they went to bed, because if they didn't come in and have ice cream, I wouldn't see them that day. And I made purposeful changes in my life because that moment was a wake-up call for me, like default is not working well for me. So what other overwhelm things? Give a couple more ideas, and then I'm going to ask you guys to think about everything we talked about today and commit, choose and commit to just one little thing. What other things did we not mention? I will say ask for help is on my list.
That was on my list too, Chris.
Yeah, do we not ask for help? And I would say, say you need to have a conversation with your someone on your team about resetting boundaries, but you're not really sure how to have that. It's an uncomfortable conversation. Grab somebody from the Facebook group. Grab somebody from this call and go, hey, Rhonda, if I called Rhonda and go, Rhonda, do you have 15 minutes for me? I'm just really uncomfortable having this conversation. Can I like practice with you and you give me your feedback? Rhonda, I'm sure would say yes, right? I think anybody in this group would. So yeah, I think we all have a hard time asking for help. Hannah, were you going to add anything around that?
Well, I just think that probably a lot of the people on this call right now are ones that like just take what needs done and right, because that's just a personality of an ops person. And so it could be one in the work life, right? Just asking people, and they can say no, they can say they don't have time, but also in personal life, like my dad's retired, and I've been like, Dad, can you go get me an oil change because my car needs an oil change? And he's like, yeah, sure. And so I think looking for those people in your life that have capacity, and people love to help people, right? And there's others that are not in the stage where, like Tyler, I have 2 little ones too, and I'm like, I get it, I have no spare time. So who else in my life has some spare time that wants to help me?
I love that. My dad, up until he was about 85, was the runner for our team, and he loved being needed. So that was a great example. What else? Who else wants to add a couple more ideas for overwhelm? I'll add, while you guys are thinking, how are you starting your day, right? Stephanie always teaches us 2 different things. One is starting your day and starting your business day, a startup routine for yourself, and then a startup routine for your business, and then a shutdown routine for your business, and a shutdown routine for yourself. Do you have those in place? And there's lots of different ways you can do that. Here's a really simple one that I've shared with a few of my clients who are working from home. You're working from home, there's no boundaries, you're always on your phone, you're on your laptop, you feel like you're on call 24/7. Especially if you have kids, this is a good one. But grab your kids, grab your spouse, grab your boyfriend, your whatever, your significant other, go outside, walk around the block clockwise at the beginning of your business day. Now I start working. When you shut things down, walk around the block counterclockwise. It's a signal to your body that's a physical signal to your brain to start to shut down. What do you guys want to add? Overwhelm. More solutions.
Well, I have just recently gone from like a task rabbit type position to like full-time executive assistant. Now all of a sudden I'm in charge of creating all these things, and everything's inefficient and fix everything right now. And it feels like I don't have enough time in the day, and like I don't have time for it, but I'm like, okay, I need to take 15-20 minutes at the start of every single work day, even though it feels like I don't have time for it, and look through all of my things and pick out what my important things are for that day, and like prioritize taking the time to prioritize, even if I feel like I don't have it, because then my whole entire day is like, oh, it's fine, I don't need to do that. I've already picked out my important thing for the day. I don't have to worry about that until tomorrow.
I love that. Yeah, super important. If you're feeling overwhelmed, it's because one of the things Steph mentioned earlier, you feel like you focus on all the things you're not doing instead of the things you are doing, right? So when I got into my worst overwhelm, one of the times I was in super bad overwhelm, I had surgery on my shoulder, and I was not supposed to be on a laptop. And like Tyler, like, of course, I'm on my laptop anyway, even though the doctor says not to. I was in a lot of physical pain. No, I just lost where I was going with that. Oh, so my rule was, before I put my feet on the floor, I need to know the one thing I have to do today to win the day. And then I would log that one thing on my calendar, on a written calendar, not in my Google Calendar, because there's so much stuff on my Google Calendar. I wanted to be able to look back and pile up the small wins day over day over day. So now my mind starts seeing I'm winning. So now my mind realizes I can win at other things too. It's just kind of a mindset thing that's really important. And my one thing for winning might be, you know, I have a client who lost her son earlier this year. Her one thing for a number of weeks was taking a shower. If I take a shower, I won the day. Like, go as small as you need to get, and then build those wins. And all of a sudden you'll realize you're accomplishing more. All right, we have 4 minutes left. If you still have ideas, type them in the chat. I would love everyone who's on the call to think about one thing that you heard, or maybe you know in your own head you need to do and we didn't mention it. I want you to choose that one thing, commit to what you're going to do, that one thing. Maybe it's just for the rest of this week to try it out and see if it works, and type it in the chat. Love it. brain dumping, reprioritize, walk, journaling, one line, reestablish routine, leave my phone elsewhere, startup routine. Andrew, real estate classes. Yes, I know someone who will hold you accountable to that. Morning routine, to-do list or Trello, do not overcommit. Book my anniversary getaway. Yes. Awesome. I'm going to ask you guys, if you're in our Facebook group, I want you to go pull your phone or your computer out, go into the Be a Boss Facebook group right now and type in there, my commitment to move out of overwhelm is whatever. And then we're going to check back with you in a week, right? Those of you who have been on our classes know that 10% of your success comes from setting the goal. 10% of your success goes from having a plan. So now we have a goal and a plan, and 80% of your success comes from accountability. So if you would like it, we would like to provide you that accountability so that we can move out of overwhelm. And anybody have anything they want to add before we wrap up? Any coaches or any comments? Anybody on the call, you're welcome to jump in.
Just a thank you.
I was going to say, Christy, I think we just need to give ourselves some grace. Everybody has to understand, we give so much grace to everybody else. We give tons of grace. We're always willing to give them, oh, it's okay. You know what? It's all right. I understand. And we never give that grace to ourselves. And it's okay. If I didn't get this one thing done today, nobody died. Like, it's okay. I can say, you know what? I apologize. I was trying to get this done. I ran out. It's okay. Just give yourself some grace. And we're so bad at doing that for ourselves and so good at doing it for everybody else.
That's a great way to wrap it up. Stop being perfect. Give the grace to yourself that you give to others. So you guys are awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. We hope we see you in our classes and in coaching and in our group actively participating. We are rooting for you to get out of overwhelm. I'll give you one final thing. On our website, we have a place for thoughts and prayers. If you are in a situation where you would like to have our team, one of our values at OpsBoss is faith. So if you would like to have either for you or anyone in your family or on your team, and you would like to have prayers and thoughts sent your way, just hop on there and fill out the little form, and we're happy to keep you in our thoughts and prayers. And I hope you guys have a fantastic week and get really bossy. So thanks for joining us. Bye, guys.